All right, b4. We've seen this before. Remember, if there's still a threat on g7, we don't need to do anything about this pawn. As we can see now, there is not. So now I think I'll move it. And I'll go with the a pawn here. Support this. e3, very likely to be our next move. And our opponent he's really insistent on getting some sort of exchange here. I don't really mind in either direction, if I'm being honest. We can go here. There is going to be a trade on a1. I don't really know that I don't really know that I like encouraging that. So I almost feel like perhaps taking a pawn instead is a better way of doing things. Let's go like this. Now, we don't like playing knight c3 without our pawn in front. We know that. Okay, thinking this, but then I'm looking at the next move and I'm seeing that it's probably going to be that. For that reason, we are reevaluating. I think we're gonna need to play this one first. Again, there's nothing really happening here. Play c4. I play it now just to make sure I get it. I'll be pretty annoyed if I, for some reason, don't get to play c4 in this opening. Bishop a5 is not the most scary. We have moves we can do like knight c3 or knight d2. Probably knight d2 is safer. Get castled. And again, we've got a queenside majority here, but I've got the pawns in the center, and I definitely prefer the central pawns in this case. Knight needs to move. Both look good. Knight c3 blocking the bishop, and maybe knight d2 can go to b3 where it's useful. So for some reason, I'm thinking knight d2 more than knight c3 in this case. But I think knight c3 would be a perfectly fine move. Bishop c7. It's looking like e5 is the idea. At least I think so. After e5, I think we'll just play d5 here. Could decide to capture instead, but that will free a lot of the pieces, get a lot of trades. Let's keep it controlled here. Bishop, I would say, needs to move. Let's go back. Knight is not on a great square, but safe for the moment. Whoa. Okay, what's the idea here? Because e4 doesn't work. Okay. Ooh, this is going to lead to a nice little double sacrifice here. I mean, when you have that hanging queen with the bishop eyeballing it, it's not something you can do. Ooh, bishop takes h2. I think bishop takes here. I mean, this knight is hanging, but this looks like it might lead to a quick checkmate. Although, to be fair, I think we will take that free piece. King g6. We have queen here, which I think we will play anyway, actually. Queen g7 is a threat, and so is the bishop. So rook g8 looks like a great move, and it is played. Let's give a check. And as tempting as knight e5 is, it's not checkmate. So king g6, we'll take this with a check. Take this. And queen g5 is a checkmate that we've actually learned before. A very nice dovetail mate, queen g5. And b4, once again, I'd say turns out decent here. I do think that in this case, e3 is the move that should be played, but there's something about these easy trades that I just don't like giving to my lower rated opponents. I'd rather keep the pieces on the board, you know? So I think we're happy enough with this. And you can see how the pieces want to develop with c4 first and then knight to c3. But we don't want to allow that d4 move. So as much as we want to play c4 here, I do not like this. This is a very bad spot to be in. Our bishop is not happy. So d4 first and then c4. And I think this is completely fine now. Okay. Let's go for b4. Obviously, our next move, bishop b2. Striking at the center. And we have seen queen f6 before. We'll go with knight f3. There's d6. I think let's probably continue with our move e3. e4 yet again runs into some trouble there. Let's go for c4. Probably knight to c3. d4 next. Okay, usually this is for the move queen g6, but let's just expand here. e4 cannot be played. Bishop g4, for example, something like bishop e2 makes a lot of sense. And I feel like we're just gaining a lot of space in the middle. From what I know about this opening, black is kind of waiting to play the move queen g6 and is waiting for our bishop to move in order to facilitate that. I'm going to play bishop d3, which is, by the way, only possible because there's no e4. And I don't really know how black develops here, if I'm being honest. It could actually be really tricky. Takes, I think it's important to take with the pawns. We don't allow knight e5. It's very cramped in black's position. You're really not supposed to have the queen out in front. Okay, here I think we're going to need to block this check. Let's do it with the knight. Now we'd love to play knight to f4. Not quite trapping the queen, but coming damn close. But we're going to need to castle before we entertain any of that. That's what I'm sure about. And now the hunt is on. Knight f4, queen g4 I don't think does anything. The move I'm looking at is d5. And I think it comes very close to trapping the queen. But let's see. Knight d4, queen here. h3, queen h5. Not quite successful, but we have knight f5 hitting the bishop and then knight g3 at the end. I think that we are winning the queen, but it's going to take many, many moves to potentially get there. Let's see if it works. Knight d4, hitting the queen. There's a lot of ways you can just blunder the queen as well, so you got to choose the right one. And then we got the simple h3. Nice habits move that makes us all feel good. Queen f4 will drop the queen to bishop c1. Queen h5 actually looks the safest, but weirdly enough, knight f5 and then knight back to g3, the queen has nowhere to go. All of these squares will be covered. And so knight e5 is actually going to drop the bishop. But when you think about it, I should be trying to win the queen, right? So bishop takes here, and then knight to g3 would be great. However, bishop takes e5. If my opponent is on the ball, we're going to see bishop takes f5. So I think we're going to have to settle. So sad for just a free piece. I know. It's tragic. Absolutely tragic. Let's take this so we get our queen trade. I think knight g6 is also intriguing, but I just think perhaps unnecessary is the best way to say it. Takes here. Take like this. And we'll go ahead and take this. And although taking here, I think actually knight c7 is nearly a guarantee, but I will continue to stick to good habits. Just as a reminder that you don't need to be fancy, and you shouldn't be fancy when you're up a piece. I think this is the way to do it. Just trade. The extra piece will always pay dividends. Now, In terms of a mating net here, I feel like if this pawn moves up, that might help the king escape. So I'm going to push the pawn to h5. Here comes the rooks. We're going to play a move like b5 to keep everything, even a3, just absolutely no counterplay. And king e2, so all these squares are covered. These are covered. Yeah, there's absolutely nothing for black to do here. f4. In comes the rook. King f2 to stop rook e3. Now the rooks are doubling. The momentum is there. And we can hunt the position down. And we're just going after all these pawns. Take them all. GG. GG. Yet another b4 queen f6 response guy. They're all trying to go for scholar's mate, but it just doesn't work. And hopefully the development patterns are starting to sink in. The b pawn, like, I will move it to b5, but I'm always keeping it here in case knight c6 happens. Sometimes I'll voluntarily play b5, but rarely. It's not a mistake if you do it, but there's just no need to. I have other useful moves. e3, knight f3, bishop e2, castles, c4, knight c3, almost never knight c3 first, and then d4 as well. That gives us a lot of moves to make it through the opening. Okay, we have b4, and we're pretty sure our follow-up is bishop to b2, queen e7. So if we play knight f3, there actually will follow e4. So I would say this is actually one of the rare cases where knight f3 allows e4, and then the pawn is hanging. So in this case, I would actually look at this pawn, and I'm like, well, hang on. Now I actually need to move it. a3 is always possible, but I think you've seen if I can move the pawn, I generally do. It feels nice to move it rather than defend it. Okay, I think we're probably equipped now to play knight f3. Hitting this pawn and queen b4. I think we'll just take here. It does feel like black's about to hang the queen on b5. Otherwise, I really don't get that move. But perhaps it's a move not to get. Where is this queen even going? No matter what we take here, I think, like if we play a3, could work out nicely. We can take here and play knight c3, but then I think c6 is a pretty good reaction. So I kind of want to attack this queen and at least see where it's going to go. So I'll play a3. I'm curious, right? Is the queen going to go to a3 for another tempo? c5 potentially for another tempo? You look at d4 and think, oh, that's a great move. And then you realize that bishop d4 is there and the queen has nowhere to go. We're not even 8 moves into the game and black has lost the most important piece of material that is on the board. All right, time to get castled. And let's try to gain some space here. We have a full extra, I guess it's a queen for a knight, so there's still some reason to harbor some hope here as black, but dwindling for sure. Let's take with the rook, actually. Queen f3, rook f1, and the pile driver on the f file continues. Let's take here, and it's not necessarily going to be forced mate with rook f8. Rook d7 certainly helps out. That will be checkmate. Very, very early on, winning the queen, that was the difference. b4, queen e7. I mean, we've seen just about all the different queen moves that are possible. None of them are any good. You never want to lead with your queen here, and this is a pretty good reminder, but we're sticking with pretty much the same moves, and in this case, bishop d4 1 material. We got the white pieces, which means it's b4 time, and c5 is potentially disastrous for the opponent. There are not usually tactics. Okay, that's a resignation. Wow. There are not usually tactics, in case you're curious. Very rarely are there ever tactics where it's the f2 square and your bishop on g7. They do not combine for anything negative, meaning there's no trick like bishop takes f2 and then some sort of queen pattern where you lose your bishop. Like, it's just not possible. Queen f6. There's just no tricks. There's no way that bishop here can ever fail to some sort of combo that hits you on the f2 square, so you never need to worry about it. All right, b4 and bishop b2. We're used to this by now. d6. So a very sturdy defense of this pawn. And with this move, there is no more, knight c6, b5 or anything like that. Knight c3 usually happens pretty quick in these ones. Okay, b6. Interesting. We could try to challenge the light squares very quickly with, for example, bishop to f3, but I don't think so. Don't think that's the way to do things. Bishop e2, queen c2. e4 is very forward, but potentially also a bit too much. Let's wait and see here. We want to go d4. If we start with bishop e2, we have queen c2. I imagine black's playing bishop e7, but could see e4. I think this is going to be a game where we play d4. Let's castle. Yeah, I suspect d4 here. Okay. Pushing forward. Queen on c2 makes sense. We have some good space over here thanks to these pawns. And the double fianchetto, our opponent perhaps may find it difficult to sort of make every piece happy there. Rook e8, queen e7. These are the only two moves I expect here. And in fact, we may need to see both of them. Okay, c5. Well, we'll start by taking, I think. Just because this pawn was actually directly hanging. And now, I think we just take this pawn for free. We can also play d5 and then capture it. But yeah, just don't see any reason not to right now. We're attacking the pawn 3 times. Let's take it. d6 is loose there. Pretty good game from our opponent. Rook b8, we would play rook b1. Okay, takes, let's take back. Here, we can take with the pawn, but indeed I might take with the bishop just to get some trades. So let's see what makes more sense here. Yeah, I really do feel that bishop takes d5 is comfortable, because that pawn will be a target as well. Rook to d1, and you could put the bishop on d5 perhaps. I'm targeting the d pawn, so I am looking to leave that bishop where it is, play rook d1, and take on d6. It's really hard to prevent. No matter where you move the knight, we've got that move next. c4 defended. I want to say we can pre-move it, but there's no reason to do that right now. takes. Black's down 2 pawns, but still, in my opinion, with takes and knight c5, there's a game to play. I don't think it's totally obvious. So this rook is defended, meaning knight e5 and knight c5 are definitely ideas. Now, because of that, I'm thinking about the move rook d5 to triple up and continue to apply the pressure. Ooh, unfortunately, that one is not going to work. The queen definitely had places to move and play rook d1, and if the knight moves somewhere, we'll most likely take the rook, although it does depend where the knight moves. We have this move, but queen e6 does win the knight here, so we'll go ahead and execute that. And to be honest with you, the king is truly safe on h6, so let's play f4. I think g4, and next move h4. And then we'll be setting up checkmate. Checkmate with a pawn. GG. And I mean that. That was definitely a good game. So you can see when the e-pawn gets defended in our b4 speedrun, we're happy. Like we're not gonna assume that there's gonna be tactics here. We're just gonna develop c4 and then knight c3, knight f3, bishop b2, castles. You could play d3. I like d4 as well. We might have b5 at some point later, but we're just trying to gain a bunch of space. And in this case, we went off after the center pawn because black did not defend with rook e8 and queen e7. Thank you guys so much for making it to the end of another episode of the 1b4 speedrun. I hope you found this as tricky and successful as I did in the series. And remember to subscribe to the chessbrah YouTube channel if you're not already, and turn on post notifications so you don't miss when we drop our next upload.